Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Om Shanti 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 Om Ishvara Namastê. Bem-vindo à nossa classe. We have seen the progression of the sadhanas, né? That somehow uh, are responsible for self-knowledge. We know only nididhyasana, meaning to say Vedantic meditation, which is meditation on the nature of Nirguna Brahman, because Krishna was playing with it, which is superior. No, this is good, but this is also good. So one is going to prepare and the other is going to allow you to attain me. One is going, this you're going to be a great devotee, and after having restrained the sense organs and so on, one pointedness mind, and then observance of Dharma, some devotees will come to the point of being able to meditate upon my true nature as imperishable Brahman, which is undefinable, unmanifest, all-pervading, incomprehensible, immutable, immovable, and so on. So in order to attain self-knowledge, one has to get into Vedanta and furthermore get into Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana, Upanishadic Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana, or Gita's Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. Why? Because Gita has everything, including Jnana Yoga. No? So this is an example of a verse which is the essence of Jnana Yoga. No? So you develop some discipline, some dispassion, and so on, and then we come to the point that one has purified enough in order to meditate upon Nirguna Brahman. Only then they will attain this understanding, Tattvamasi, or you are of the same nature as I myself, Nirguna Brahman. So it's the highest jhanam available. And it was, now I remember, there was a passage that Swamiji said, jhana, Atma jhana is integral part of this Vedantic process. Integral part, meaning to say that meditation is not only compulsory in terms of meditating upon Saguna nature, Ishvara, which is Upasana, but meditation as meditating upon Nirguna Brahman, which is technically called Nididhyasana. So the difference is that object of meditation is much subtler when we come to the Vedantic Nididhyasana. As a matter of fact, we're going to meditate upon, we could say, what kind of meditation is a meditation upon Nirguna Brahman? Meditate upon my inner nature, or I'm meditating upon the teachings, that reveal my inner nature, which is the more technically correct way to understand it, because how are you going to meditate upon your nature, You need concepts to meditate upon your inner nature, your true nature, real nature. You need to have this understanding. And then you meditate. And you are meditating only because you want to have the Paroksha Jnana, which is self-knowledge, which then no longer requires further nididhyasana, because the knowledge, once it is gained, it remains firm, it remains always available. Doubtless, self-knowledge is always available, so the individual does not need any more Vedanta, does not need any more nididhyasana, unless the individual does not find anything better to do to exhaust one's karma. What better to do than to enjoy the song of the self, which are the scriptures, glorifying Nirguna Brahman, our very nature. So we have seen this, and the difficulty is that Nirguna Brahman is something that cannot be objectified or assessed, by the sense organs, the mind and the intellect. And then one has to understand first the nature of this Nirguna Brahman, using words that describe certain features, let's say features of this imperceptible, incomprehensible Brahman. There are some features you can say. Usually it goes about it's not this, it's not that, but the most positive feature is that is the substratum of the universe, is the adhistanam, is the all-pervading space, conscious space. So there are some features there pointing, and then other than that, we have several metaphors and analogies that are going to point towards this Nirguna Brahman, which is nothing but our own intrinsic inner real nature as conscious existence. So how are you going to meditate upon that? Remembering the teachings, and as Mark said very beautifully later on, Nididhyasana should be a meditation that goes beyond the reading or the remembering the teachings on the academic level, but self-experimenting, the words of Mark, which were very well put. You have to see the teachings and put side by side with the way I'm living my life to see if these teachings and the way I live, they are harmonized. I don't want to have a knowledge and have my day-to-day experience or interaction with life being contradictory, on the intellectual level. I say I am limitless Brahman and this and that, but if I act most of the time from the standpoint of my body mind, which is very limit, defect, and with ragged vessels operating and so on, and then we have to be honest to see, okay, I need nididhyasana until my life and what I know are conformed, harmonized. No? They are called concepts. Can you say Nirguna Krishna can be conceived by the mind? We have seen this very profound here now. Nirguna Brahman, Nirguna Krishna, or original Krishna cannot be even conceived. It's not an object of conceptualization. That is the bombshell presented by Krishna here. It's inconceivable. You cannot even conceive. You cannot conceive as this and that. You understand? Because any this and that must have attributes so that I can say it's like this or it's like that. I cannot conceive in that way, but is conceivable as one's own conscious existence. My existence as a conscious being is an indication that my true fundamental nature is consciousness, and consciousness is synonymous of true God. So we have always to be editing these things because, or adding something to these statements, because when we say it's not conceivable, it's not knowable yet, the scriptures say, but you must know it, otherwise your life was wasted again. So you have at least to get close to preparing the mind to understand and know it. So we must know, but it's not an object of knowledge, but yet it's knowable as one's own self, one's conscious existence. The same way it cannot be conceived. It cannot be conceived as this or that, but it is conceived according to the Upanishads as one's very true identity nature. Yeah? So we need to understand those. Otherwise, we remain into the vagueness. Most people remains people from the direct path remain like with these statements. They're beautiful, they're profound, they're subtle, but I say, wow. So, what I am, it cannot be conceived. It cannot be known. Okay, so and then what is the deal here? Now the deal is not known. And then what is not known? You have to throw away everything you know, even your spiritual knowledge, and you have to go into nirvikalpa samadhi. This is the implied meaning that if you go that way, which is the yoga way, is negate. Instead of affirming I am Brahman, you say Brahman can never be known. And how are you gonna come close to know Brahman? It's impossible, but you can throw away knowledge by going into nirvikalpa samadhi. And then you stay there or sleep forever. Deep sleep forever. And philosophers and materialists, people, people in the internet, you have to be careful with what we expose our minds to in the internet. There is so much misleading concepts. I sometimes I hit some of these in the YouTube Premium. There are some good knowledge, some good interviews and podcasts there, spiritually speaking. And but there is so much misleading concepts, materialist concept, metaphysics concepts that tries to prove that there is no God for this and that reason and so on. And but people not having the mind subtle enough, sensitized, they're not purified and refined enough to perceive to a certain degree God and conceive and understand God as this God, the Creator, as the intelligent supreme principle, much less the finesse, the purification, subtlety, and sensitivity to conceive God as one's conscious existence. And then when we say that, we say, oh, you're crazy. Now you're really crazy. You're saying that you are Brahman. You have to, at the most, you have to do like that, because if you say yes, and then they are going to crucify you, Mark. I bet with you. Okay. So they prefer to say that Nirguna Brahman is just a trip and a concept. It does not exist. And the disciples, they accept the concept that you are Brahman, and they just nod their heads, but deep inside they still have trouble with that statement. They don't quite agree, because if he would really agree when they say like that, so the sadhana will be over. We may think, in fact, all put together in one word, we can say it's an objectifiable, yes. Because these are different pramana. Pramana is means of knowledge, so everything we know by five sense perceptions and intellectual inference. And then there is another means of knowledge, which is not perception and inference, which is the Vedantic Brahmanas, the Vedic Brahmanas, the Vedic means of knowledge. What does that mean? It means that you're not going to perceive it, and you're not going to infer Brahman as yourself. You're going to have the direct knowledge, and there is a means by which you're going to get there. But the means, the Vedantic Brahmana means, it does not reveal the self directly. It reveals the self indirectly. It's impossible to reveal the self. When we say that the pramana, the only means to get to know Brahman, it's a concession to ignorance, because no pramana, not even the Vedas and the Upanishads, can reveal the self. It's going to reveal what the self is not, is going to reveal anattama, and point to the self, and then tell the disciple, go and contemplate, meditate, okay? Do your nididhyasana until you are totally clear and convinced, and that is a parokshayana. So what's the deal? There is no pramana to reveal the self because the self is always ever revealed as your own self. Okay? So Maha appeared before Ramana Maharaj and said, so I want to realize the self, I want to realize the self. Ramana, with his own way, says, tell me a moment the self is not realized in you. Mhm. So I want to have this realization, this revelation. So it's the self is the most, how do you say, self-revealing principle. It reveals itself as Chidabhasa, conscience, reflected consciousness, okay, reflected existence. So you don't need a pramana. You have to have a pramana means indirect, which is a means by which you're going to cancel all the wrong, mistaken knowledge and notions you have about what you are. That's all. It's indirect. We call it direct knowledge only after we go through the indirect process, and then directly, the click comes and you see, yes, now I understood. So simple. Né? Everybody says so simple. James costumava used to say, it's very simple but not easy. And Papaji also used to say, it's very simple, very simple. And it's very simple, yet the ability that the Ahamkara has to see itself as its own Saguna configuration, and not to see the light of consciousness, uh, so to speak, beyond or behind or sustaining this ahamkara, this body mind. This ignorance is something so profound and it comes to a point of being so subtle, so subtle. The best example is the light is showing now our hand, but we discount the light, and everything here is a superimposition on consciousness, but we discount consciousness, we see only the superimpositions. Same way we go to the cinema and we see the movie, we see the project image, moving dynamically, but we forget all about the screen. We are only watching, looking, staring at the screen, but we forget it. The mind has this ignorance, even after they are told that, so you go then, you have to watch the light, you have to watch the screen, forget about the distracting image, but the mind gets so distracted with the namarupas all around us, including our own body mind, that we discount the self, without which this Namarupa is just a dead body, you know. Okay, okay, we have seen this. Okay, we see that he's just describing the features of consciousness, such as it goes beyond the boundaries of any object. You see a tree, you say, "Oh, this tree exists." Where is existence? Oh, it's in the tree. No, it's not in the tree. Existence goes beyond the boundaries of the chair. You understand? But you see the chair, and then you mistakenly say, "No, this chair has its own existence." Those are all simple teachings we have been in contact with, but they are very important tools for Nididhyasana. You understand? We saw the the metaphor of the goldsmith and the base below, no? And the hot metal is there, and the anvil is the base, which is harder than any metal, much less the metal incandescent, no? A metal after it has been heated up to high temperature, that is very soft, and then it hits against the anvil. And consciousness is the support. This is the analogy to present Brahman as the adhisthana, the support. The adhisthana, the support, must, by definition, logic, conclusion, must never change, because it's upon that unchanging principle that the phenomenal change world appears. Changeless substratum is required. So I may present that simple analogy that the teacher is the same. The teacher can say the students from my morning class and the evening class are different. It means by implication that the teacher is the same. Because if it were two teachers, they would never be able to say that the students are the same. You know? So we need to have a one principle which is always the same to apprehend, difference and modifications. So the mind has to be very prepared, very qualified to go into Nididhyasana, Upanishad Nididhyasana. We know, and Krishna says that in the next few verses, the preparatory, let me change this color. The preparatory qualification for Nirguna Dhyana represent the Upanishad very, very clear. So we know this. We know which he's going to go into the qualifications which are required for us to have success with Nididhyasana. Nididhyasana is not just studying the scriptures or reading the scriptures. It's just, experimenting, self-experimenting with the scriptures, with the knowledge, applying it to our moment-to-moment experience of life. So we have the 3Ds, three-dimensional. 3Ds is a different 3D. And then we have the fourth D, which is desire, and that is that's a big desire. Desire is the enemy of the seeker of moksha. It is and it is not. The desire for self-knowledge and moksha remains at the end as the last obstacle. Okay? And I say that because I have lived that. So, but until we get there, forget about giving up mumukshutva, because it's a desire that's going to be at the end an obstacle. Once it becomes the last and the only obstacles, and then you're going to have to give up, because only the Lord can bless one person with self-recognition. You have to relax in the end. That reminds me of those fashionable teaching, call off the search, call off the search. The search is the problem, huh? And in this verse, he also emphasizes control of the sense organs. This is all what needs to be done to prep the mind for direct self-knowledge, or nididhyasana, that's conducive to direct self-knowledge. Before we have to control the indriya grama, samya, samini, yanya. One has to master the sense organs. They extrovert due to force of habit. The sense organs are always run to contact its respective object. Therefore, has to come to a point of this all becomes natural after all. But in the beginning, there is such a pull, the sense organs pull, né? The Jivatma into sensory object. But the goal is to assimilate these teachings in a way that you're going to discipline the sense of not just by oppression or suppression, by understanding. There is nothing really there that's going to resolve and satisfy you, you know. And then as a result, one develops what dispassion or equanimity, one becomes more like a witnessing, witnessing conscious, human conscious, it's experience witnessing human conscious that look at things around without suffering that pull, that magnet, force of attraction and repulsion, because attract and repulsion is what makes it more difficult for us to do our nididhyasana, because the mind remains all the time operate by raga dvesha, and those remain impressions in one's mind, and then the mind is is disturbed. The mind needs to be contemplative until it becomes more natural in seeing the world without suffering, that push and pull caused by the five sense objects. Discipline of the sense, and then on another level, discipline of the mind, which is more subtle and a little bit more difficult, and it's all possible with the help of willpower plus understanding, So the sense organs are going to contact, are going to be compelled to contact, and that is going to produce tendencies, vasanas, subtle impressions that remains deposited in the causal body. And then the mind has three ways they say now to think. One is to think when it sees an object. You see an object, and then the thought of the object comes side by side with it. Another way is you're trying to meditate, you are not seeing anything, you have closed all the possible, sense to see if nothing is going to extrovert your mind. But then you have a lot of mental impressions in your subconscious mind that come to the surface. So your inner thoughts, the outer thoughts in contact with the environment, the inner thoughts, what is already there, and pushing themselves to your conscious mind, especially when you are not engaging, interacting with the world, and then you are more vulnerable because the mind needs activity, is going to pull all those impressions from this causal body. And then, oops. Okay. And then what's the third way of thinking? Now, we think by seeing the world, interacting with the world, the people, things, and situations and circumstances. And then we think when we are just trying to meditate or even doing whatsoever we are doing, there are all these thoughts, And then there is something that some call deliberate thinking. Deliberate thinking is like, now I'm not going to let you thinking of things of the past that have become impressions in my conscious mind, tendencies to think in a certain way, seeing the world in a certain way. I don't want to be moved by those impressions, because those impressions come from the time I had no discipline. My sense organs were getting all kinds of data from the world around me and producing these tendencies, these vasanas to think and do things from that perspective. So now I don't want any of that. No, I want to think deliberately. Thinking deliberate is very hard. It's impossible, but you can make effort to think deliberate by doing your Shravana, Manana, and Nidhyasa. You have to follow the teachings of the Vedanta, and think along the lines of the teachings. Not that you remain all the time there, because the moment you stop doing that, even in between, there will be breaks in which other thoughts are going to come. Oh, what about me? What about me? You know? So we can try make an effort of thinking deliberately. I cannot think in deliberate, and I have no gain in trying to think deliberately. I was talking to someone the other day. I say, I'm never alone. I'm never alone because I have my mind with me. It produces so many companions, thoughts. So I'm never really alone. And then I talk to my dog, I talk to my chicken, I talk to Sylvia sometime. So we are never alone. We have all these creatures in our mind. The problem is you don't want to have a problematic mind because then every thought that comes produce emotional disturbance. You have to have a good base of good thoughts that comes, and then you say, "Oh, okay, 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 I'm not interested." But it's like a movie that's running itself most of the time. And then you go talk to the big yogis, they're going to say, "No, no mind is the only solution. You have to go in samadhi and not having any thought coming from the unconscious mind." So that is the path of samadhi yoga. But there are two kinds of yonis. One is a yogi who is self-realized and also is a yogi, samadhi yogi, meaning to say every possible moment, opportunity, they go into nirvikalpa samadhi. This is one kind of yoni. Another, Ramana is an example. He was that kind of yoni. He did not want to talk or say. In fact, they say that he stayed many years without being able to say things. He lost the ability to speak. So some yoni, they simply they have such a nirvikalpa samadhi vasana that they prefer to stay in that state. But then again, talking about Ramana, so the people around him pulled him from that vasana. You say, no, you're going to develop a different vasana because we want us to tell us what happened with you and the way you experience life because you are so beautiful. Yeah? And then you look so happy, so peaceful. And then he began producing thoughts against his will as an effort to try to help people. Yeah?
Arlindo, I remember Swami Paramarthananda saying that the screen is the same whether the movie is playing or not.
Yeah, that's what it is. Once you understand that you are the substratum, you are the consciousness that reveals, all the three kinds of thoughts, and then you are free from any of these three kinds of thoughts. Let's put it in two kinds of thoughts, problematic thoughts and non-problematic thoughts. A problematic mind is going to suffer problematic thoughts, which are going to create mental and emotional pain, disturbance again and again. Yeah? And then the question is, and also there is a question of intensity, because more ignorant the person is, more crowded is one's subconscious mind. Subconscious, it gets crowded by unresolved conflicts and things like that are there. And then they start overcrowding, and then some people start suffering panics and other mental, psychiatric disease. Too much, it's too full, the basement of the mind. So the pressure should not be much. These days, after talking to this person, I thought like that, so maybe I should revisit the sadhana of samadhi, because as we know, I developed a resistance against any deep meditation because I recognize that that did not solve my problem. And I know that it doesn't matter the state of my mind, because once you know that you are light, revealing all states, but yet we don't want to reveal disturbing emotions, disturbing, reactions, or something like that. We want to have an environment so that we have overall non-problematic thoughts. Here and there comes a little concern, a little deed. Then once remember, that's not a big deal. So what, you know? But I thought maybe I should experimenting and close my eyes and begin meditating again, like I used to do in the old days, to see if I still have an interest in experience. Because I was watching a video too Ramana Maharaj, there are some nice things in the YouTube. If you sign up for YouTube Premium, which is the one without advertisement, there are some good stuff there. There's a lot of, crap as well. And then I was listening to certain descriptions of Ramana present the self as this profound self, empty and no thoughts, no mind, no ego. So when you do not exist anymore, you're just Sakshi Chaitanya, this conscious principle witnessing. So I start remembering a little bit of those states, and I say maybe I want to visit that level of experience again. I will tell you if I make an effort to do that again. If the sense organs are wandering out, the mind is carried away. So therefore, control of the sense is fundamental. We have control of the sense organs of reception and action. So we receive the world through these five senses, and we respond to the world through the five sense of action, instruments of action. So we have to somehow have a certain degree of mastery upon the reception and how we respond to those. If we allow our sense organs, contact everything because they became monsters, with their own life, and you are no longer their master. And then they are going to be so excited, contacting. And then it's almost impossible to control your organs of action, because the organs of action are going to follow the command of the sense organs collecting data. So, and then in the third level is control of thoughts. As I said, is the most subtle, the most difficult. We need to look at thoughts and then understand the ones that are very problematic and avoiding them. So if Nirguna Brahman is not objectifiable, and Ishvara exists, Brahman exists, here Ishvara. Sometimes they use Ishvara as Brahman, sometimes. So he says, if Nirguna Ishvara, Nirguna Brahman is not Ishvara, but still we know that Nirguna Brahman exists. And then here he presents as the Lord, that in my language, the Lord is more like referred to the Creator, but there is no really fine line between Saguna Lord and Nirguna, Brahman. If the Lord can exist only in one way, this Brahman, there is only way that this Lord can exist. It cannot be seen, cannot be objectified, yet it exists. Although it's not objectifiable, it must know, not by the sense, not by the intellect, but the consciousness of the investigator, the consciousness of the observer. The consciousness of the observer can never be seen or objectified the same way a camera will never be seen in the picture. The old days camera, you take camera, it can see everything and capture all image, but never appears, because it's the subject and the objects are there. There are two suborders of reality. So this observer principle is the only reality, It's not an objective knowledge and experience. And the good news is that this higher Krishna nature, which is Nirguna Atma, is no different from my very nature. That's the good news, which is difficult to digest for most people. Most people, they have less, they approach Vedanta more academic. They want to know everything about this Nirguna Brahman, the most subtle, unobjectifiable, and so on. But when they get face to face with the declaration that it's not different from your own nature, and then things are a little bit less, more difficult to be accepted. What is your nature? Oh, I have so many natures, huh? My physical, my emotional, my prana nature, my guna nature, all kinds of natures. The five koshas are there, define my nature, but we talk about, I'm more profound than that. So my deeper nature is the observing consciousness, which is not the mind, but it observes everything through the mind. Mind is the instrument to capture the image, such as the camera is the instrument by which the photographer captures the image of the environment. So Nirguna Dhyana is meditate upon yourself. Self Dhyana, Atma Dhyana. Nirguna Dhyana, meditate upon myself is the other way to look at this seeking or searching for reality. I need to go deeply enough to understand the final declarations of Vedanta that says, okay, we have been talking about God and the nature of Nirguna God, and it cannot be objectified. The only thing positive we say is this is conscious existence, the only reality. And we say, it's there and it's beautiful, it's wonderful. And then now that you got an interest to know what Nirguna Brahman is, we're going to tell what it is. It's yourself. It's yourself. So now you're hot. You want to know this Nirguna Brahman, and say it's yourself. Oh, thanks God. I always had some good notions and ideas about myself. So I am Brahman. So it's yourself, you know, it's yourself. And then the sadhaka by scratches his head and say, it's myself. I think it was better before when I knew that I will never be able to know Brahman. You know Brahman as yourself. But it's myself, it's not the body, it's not the mind, it's not the emotion. This myself is not an object such as my mind, my emotional body, my physical body, my vasanas, all of that is objectifiable to some degree. This myself is identical to Nirguna Brahman, which cannot be known objectively. I see the objective world through an instrument which is an object in perspective from the angle of my true nature as consciousness, unobjectifiable consciousness. Drik, Drisha, Viveka, Drik is the unobjectifiable seer. Therefore, Nirguna Dhyana is equal to Atma Dhyana. As Dayananda beautifully says, meditation upon the meditator itself. Meditator, meditation, anyway, I'm not going to the detail. So this again, Swamiji says again and again, it's better to meditate upon the nature of God, to get there, to keep the ego under control, to diminish the sense that I'm the doer and I'm achiever, I'm go-getter and I'm gonna get there and so on. You say, no, you have to surrender to the Lord, and the Lord is going to facilitate if you really observe its laws and principles in living with a certain lifestyle. But be interested to know the nature of Saguna Brahman first, and then Nirguna Brahman. And then in the end, surprise, it's your own self. But by then the ego was already, refined enough not to trip and start going and say, oh, I am the great Brahman. Because if that is the case, it means that the sadhaka did not understand its true nature at all. True humility must be present side by side with self-realization. Since I'm not objectifying anything, my sense organs cannot afford to be extroverted. Extrovert sense organ will dwell upon the object, whereas I have to dwell upon what? Upon my true nature, upon the subject conscious principle. This is a pointer or sadhana that Papaji used to present to us. Says, so turn the mind upon its source. Well, your mind, so your mind is going here and there, turn the mind upon its true nature, its source. We did not have much of any teaching elements, but experientially that was the effort, that was the invitation. Turn the mind upon its source, and then you would see people sitting, open their eyes, and then rolling up the mind to see if they could see behind the eyes. No, it's not about that. Okay? Not about that. It's understanding what is there, behind, sustaining, supporting the mind, which is consciousness. Dwelling upon your true nature is only possible if you have knowledge, Upanishad knowledge. You're going to dwell upon the teachings that reveal your true nature. And this true nature can be only known by you and you alone as a direct aparokshayana. The sixth chapter, we have seen Krishna saying, withdraw the sense organs from the world is not just by rolling or taking your eyes over. He said, let your eyes be focused on the tip of your nose. This is a trick to try to hold the eyes without going. The eye is the most destructive among all sense organs, So the smell and the other things, the hearings and so on, but the eyes, we see the shapes and the colors of this world. And so therefore keep your attention at the tip of your nose. So just be disciplined. Don't let the mind go everywhere, your eyes go everywhere. There is a lot of discussion about whether it's better to meditate with open eyes or closed eyes. I have experimented with both. After I met Nisargadatta and I began meditate upon the sense feeling, I am, I exist, which was a very blissful meditation. I had a phase that meditation was easier with open eyes. So the point is, open eyes, you see the world, and then you can hold at the tip of your nose, and then it's easier job than close your eyes and have to face with a lot of thoughts, and you don't know which thoughts you're going to engage. So, and then it's better to do vipassana because you are holding on to something more tangible. Your thought is within the in and out of the prana. And the most profound is to keep the mind focused on your own conscious existence. I am, as Nisargadatta used to say, I exist. The next qualification presented in that verse means what? Sense organs, the next qualification, equanimity, dispassion. Under all circumstances, you you equanimous. You see the oneness of everything. Sama buddhi means equanimous mind. A balanced mind, a posed mind means that the mind understood that whatsoever comes by the grace of the Lord, and there is nothing we can do to send it back. Therefore, it's useless to throw any tantrum, It's useless. Throwing tantrum disturbs the mind even more, which does not have a strong ragadvesha. The mind has to be purified enough so that it can enjoy some equanimity, some vairagya, some dispassion, the ability to see things, without being affected by things due to my ragadvesha. If you have strong hatred, strong attraction, you cannot really do the Vedantic Nididhyasana. He's described the qualifications that allow or qualify the person to do the Nididhyasana and get this knowledge. Mind that has strong ragadvesha, as we know, cannot have this balance and it's not fit for meditation, Nididhyasana. You must first reduce the intensity of ragadvesha, and we do that by Karma Yoga, observance of Dharma, Upasana, and so on. Raga means attachments, things that you got, you desire, you have, and you want to keep at any cost. Dvesha means aversion, things that you had in the past or you have it now and you want to push it away. In other words, likes and dislikes. So equanimity, dispassion, vairagya, pose the mind, ragadvesha reduction is absolutely necessary as a qualification. Then the third qualification mentioned in this verse is commitment. Commitment to Dharma, commitment to the well-being of every living creature, everything in the world, everything in the manifestation. That brings about what's called here compassion, love, empathy, sensitivity. It's a sort of universal love that makes one interest in the well-being of everyone and everything. Mind has to expand itself. So it's said that the mind, the more it expands, the more sensitized the mind becomes, more it feels the pain of a world living so much pain nowadays, It feels more the pain of others, So an expand mind, not a narrow mind. That's why our prayers are so beautiful. So did you translate this prayer by any chance, Lynn or Mark? No, please.
I did. Let's see. Listen, O children of immortality, all you who dwell in the celestial abodes. We pray for the supreme welfare. May Shanti, may the sacrifice proceed successfully, and may the Lord of sacrifice be pleased. May there be divine well-being for us. May there be well-being for all humanity. May medicinal herbs grow in potency. May there be peace for bipeds and peace for quadrupeds. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Extremely beautiful. So can you do me a favor and post in our group, please? I want to post it in my Brazilian group as well. Wonderful prayer. All two-legged creatures, all four-legged creatures, six-legged creatures, eight-legged creatures, all of them. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. All human beings, let there be peace. I should have a sensitized mind to feel. Here he talks about to feel the pain of people and other creatures. Yeah, sensitivity. The same sensitivity to sense the presence of God is the sensitivity to begins with the sensitivity of suffering people that we must somehow develop. This is a mind with empathy, a mind which can feel the difficulties of others, a mind interested in the well-being of others. So the question is, what can I do to be interested in the well-being of others? I hardly can take care of my own well-being. So this is a very fair question, and it's true. You can only give that which you abundant with. People complain, say Swami. We have so many trouble taking care of the family. How I'm going to be taking care of the well-being of other people? Very simple. Daily at least chant one prayer. And chanting of the prayer will produce some amount of punya in the heart of those people. And that punya, I say, whatever the amount of punya, I am distributing to the whole cosmos. Okay. So meaning to say, my own process has produced more peace, peace, and peace in my heart. So I offer this peace to the whole, for all other creatures and beings on the planet, as if that is possible. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. If I'm able to chant one prayer for 1 minute every day and say that the punya, this punya I'm sharing with all creatures, whatever suffering is there, let there be some benefit from my punya. In other words, if you think of yourself, purify yourself, and have a positive impact in your environment. So it's okay to help people materially here and there, but most important, it's our own vibration, our own purification, our own love, compassion, empathy, touching the heart of other people. Swami says that this prayer is so potent that it's going to sensitize the mind. This is called daya, empathy, compassion. Without such a sensitive mind, one cannot come to Vedanta, to Nididhyasana, meditation upon the nature of Nirguna Brahman. Another qualification, very, very powerful here. It's this sensibility towards others, towards life. Love and compassion. He is also beautiful. This is the qualification for Nirguna Dhyana, not Saguna Nirguna. The highest level of devotion is required. The highest level of love, compassion, and empathy is required. The people who have purified to that level, are fit to go into Jnana Yoga. So those people who have Jnana Yogata or Dhyana Yogata practices, this Nirganeshwara, and what will happen to them? What is the benefit of Nirguna Nididhyasana, Nirguneshwara? Such people will attain me, says Lord Krishna in that verse, meaning to say such people will understand that, Tattvamasi, yeah, revealed in my scriptures. So such people means what? Such nididhyasakas. Nirguna Ishwara Dhyana Nididhyasaka. They attain me, and only them attain me. That means they attain moksha, self-knowledge and moksha. They attain purification. Only them are going to attain self-knowledge and moksha. Only them, they alone, and by again and again, they mean to say there is no other path. You have to go through the development of all qualifications, and then you have to purify, developing these 3Ds, 4Ds, and then only that, by nididhyasana, you will realize your own self directly. Because it's the only way to realize the self is you with yourself directly. There is nothing inferior to that goal, which is self-knowledge. So this is the highest. And the promise here is this nididhyasakas necessary will attain liberation. So we can compare with the first answer and the second answer. First, Krishna said Saguna meditators are superior. And here he says Nirguna meditators will attain me. What is idea here? Idea that both sadhanas are required. Both devotions are required. Thank you. I have to thank you guys because this class is so beautiful. I benefit as much as you guys do, you understand? And I hope we can keep it going if you are willing, of course. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Om Lord, Om Ishwara, Namaste. Again, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here.
The world to me too.
Making
Thank
it possible for us to meet around the teachings of the Gita. Namaste.
Well, thank you so much, Arlindo, as well. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing, and I'm loving the classes. It's been so beneficial and fantastic to my life. So much love and appreciation.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.